As we heard earlier, the manufacturing community was not impressed by the Reserve Bank's attitude that the resources boom will carry the whole economy. In the audience, Chief Executive of the Australian Industry Group, Heather Ridout. I spoke with her a short time ago. Heather Ridout, welcome to Lateline Business.
Good to be here, Tiki.
Well, you were there today for Philip Lowe's address. He doesn't seem to be too worried about the non-resource sectors. The message seems to be that manufacturing just has to suck it up.
Well, manufacturing, tourism, anything that's trade exposed that aren't getting the sort of prices for their goods and services that the mining and related industries are. And so it's a very, very tough outlook. Conditions in manufacturing in particular have been quite difficult now for 5 of the last 6 months. I must say the economy's patchy. There's some areas of strength, but generally the outlook for the sector is really, really very hard. And we're not getting a great deal of comfort from the statements that we really need to make space for other industries.
The argument that the Deputy Governor was running was that, in fact, a lot of the benefits are now moving through in terms of incomes, in terms of jobs.
Yeah, all these things happen at the aggregate. And it's very hard to translate the aggregate into the disaggregated impacts on different firms, on different districts, on different individuals, and on different industries, really. Certainly that you've seen some growth in services employment, but whether that translates back down into work for people and investment into big sectors that still need to attract that sort of investment is a whole different issue. Industry is very worried, I think, and they should be. Tourists should be worried about it, manufacturers should be worried about it, because the big question is, how long is this terms of trade boom going to last? And if it's going to last 5-10 years, it's going to promote what Dr. Lowe was talking about today, a lot of structural change in the economy, and that will be painful. There is no way you do structural reform without pain.
But can you see, from the sorts of things that he was saying, can you see some businesses in manufacturing, in retail, actually just disappearing?
Oh, look, indeed. I think the business models of all these companies is going to have to change if we're going to face this high currency for a protracted period. They're going to have to import more. They're going to have to completely change their business models, and it's going to be very hard. Some will be able to do that, some won't be able to do that. I am an optimist. Manufacturing has shown a huge resilience over a long period of time, and as has other parts of the economy. But this does seem to be a much different beast we're dealing with. Whilst we can be optimistic at one level, you'd have to think we're rolling the dice at another level, and no one really knows what our economy is going to look like in 10 years. If we ever had any idea about it before, we certainly don't have one now.
Now, you were part of the Henry Tax Review, of course, and not a lot was taken up by the government from that review. You're calling today for major changes to the tax system in terms of company tax, bringing it down to 25%, and also removing withholding tax. Not in the term of this government, surely.
But look, I think that what this is all about, particularly the company tax issue, is that we have to continue to attract investment into Australia, into areas like manufacturing, into tourism, into areas that are going to be really penalised by this high currency. And so having a 25% company tax rate makes it much more competitive with world tax rates and gives us an opportunity to do that. Australia has lost 3 times the market share of the average of the OECD over the last 12 months. The OECD has lost 11% of the global share of goods and services trade. Australia's lost 32%. We should be worried about this issue, and this is coming at a time and being contributed to by the flatness of productivity in this country. So we need a national effort around these issues, and we can't just say we can ride the resources boom. It'll be like riding on the sheep's back. In the end, it doesn't necessarily add up to a sustainable...
And on top of all this, we've got this idea of a carbon tax. Now, you're on the Business Roundtable on climate change. The roundtables were created by government as part of their sort of new consultative approach. Were you very surprised when this was just sprung on us all?
Well, I think the government wanted to create a process where they could deal with the independents and the Greens, and that's essentially a negotiating forum. And frankly, I think all of us sitting around that table, the Greens, the independents, the government, the unions, all the NGOs around this, and business, would not have been a particularly useful sort of forum.
But the AIG is not backing the government's policy. You're not backing the opposition's policy.
Well, because we haven't seen the detail. What we want to know from both sides is what is this detail going to look like, and how does it add up about having a competitive economy? How does it work for making sure we do move to a more clean energy society without too many costs? How are we going to deal with the regulatory issues? How are we going to deal with the technology issues? There's a range of them. And at the moment, all business sees is the inevitability of either side of politics moving down this direction without enough detail and in an environment where it's never been harder to do so.
I see the speculation today of Ross Garnaut joining the Reserve Bank board. I mean, that would be seen as quite a political appointment, wouldn't it?
Look, I think he's an eminently qualified economist, and, we we need economists on the Reserve Bank Board. It's a very important institution. I think Ross Garnaut would not be concerned about the future of manufacturing in an economy like this. His view would be very orthodox, and we heard the orthodox view today, and we've heard it many times from the Treasury, etc. So Dr. Lowe is not lonely in having this view that manufacturing can be disintermediated out while other sectors can boom. But I think he's a very fine economist, and I think no one would begrudge him a spot on the Reserve Bank Board.
Finally, very important, you're on the board of Skills Australia, the issue of skills shortages. With the sort of rebuild task that we've got ahead of us after the flood and the cyclone, with the NBN and Stephen Conroy suggesting 25,000 full-time jobs, do you worry about a really serious skills shortage?
Oh, I think it has to be right up the top of Australia's agenda. We are looking down the barrel at very big skill shortages. The construction phase of the mining boom is going to be very people-intensive, and it's going to really demand a lot of skills. We support the government in its immigration announcement in the budget, going back to the skilled migration target that was set before the GFC. That would imply us going from 168 to 190,000 roughly in terms of skilled migration.
Does this all also involve, from your point of view, relaxing the 452
Oh, indeed,
visas?
and that's the second part of it. The 457 visa program, which of course includes people from CEOs to skilled migrants to a whole range of different people, we believe that will have to be the shock absorber acting again. Now it's been tightened up considerably. There's been a lot of argy-bargy around that issue. We feel that the restrictions are more than fair, and that together with an increase in the skilled immigration target back to where it was before the GFC, when we were looking down the barrel of big skill shortages, would be a sensible policy.
Heather Ridout, great to get your insights. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.